I'm down. Let's do it. Worst cave diving deaths ever.
Tragedy. On
Before this starts, I would never do this. I would never do this ever. Cause I don't see the point. I don't see the point in, scuba diving, cave diving for no reward unless you're doing it for like money. I don't see the reward in it. Okay. Get that out of the way.
April 28th, 2000, a 22-year-old Russian diving instructor named
Okay.
Yuri Lipsky arrived at the Blue Hole.
Yo, I said this in my past video. This one is bad, dude. There is a video out there of this guy. There's a video out there of this guy dying. It's so bad. I said in my past video, if you want to see one of the most tragic, most sad, like, scuba diving deaths ever, look up Yuri Lipsky.
In Dahab, Egypt. He took a camera along to
That's
document
awful.
his
It's
achievement.
awful.
He planned to break his personal depth record as he decided to attempt a bounce dive. A bounce dive is when a diver drops to a maximum depth and returns immediately to the surface. This approach cuts down time at depth and limits decompression needs, but it tempts less qualified divers to go deeper than they should. The Blue Hole sits on Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. This underwater sinkhole
It's
plunges more than
it's bad when all the other water around it is like light blue, like sky blue, and this is just black. It's just black. Who looks at this and is like, I'm gonna go in there and go as deep as possible? I don't know. I just don't see it.
The Blue Hole sits on Egypt's
so
Sinai
bad.
Peninsula. This underwater sinkhole plunges more than 328 feet down. So many divers have died there that the people in the area call it the Divers' Cemetery. At 180 feet down, there is an underwater tunnel called the Arch that connects the hole to the open ocean. Most fatalities occur when divers attempt to swim through this tunnel. But Yuri's death happened somewhere else entirely. Tarek Omar, another diver who was more experienced with technical diving, had tried to talk Yuri out of the dive.
Yo,
But
if
Yuri
someone,
refused
yo,
to listen.
see, that is exactly when you should quit, dude. If someone of your skill level or above is telling you don't do this because, oh, people have died here. People have died here. I don't know if that like is convincing enough to tell you not to go do something, but should have listened to him.
Confident in his abilities because he was an instructor. He thought he knew what he was doing. At 5 p.m., Yuri prepared his camera at the surface, adding a red filter and making sure everything was set up. The date and timestamp showed on the recording. The sun was still shining through the water.
It's so
After a
bad.
while, Yuri began his descent with a single air tank. He
Oh,
had
so
overwhelmed
bad.
himself with heavy gear. In the first 2 minutes, everything looked normal. Nothing special was happening. After 4.5 minutes into the video, his light began fading. By the 5-minute mark, darkness had surrounded him completely.
See,
At 5 minutes and 37 seconds, Yuri held his dive computer at the camera. The display read a depth of 266 feet. A rocky, sandy bottom appeared below him on screen, but Yuri was still sinking. It looked more like a slope than a flat surface. Moments later, he checked his computer again. The screen showed he was around 301 feet of depth down. Yuri tried to inflate his buoyancy compensator. The audio captured the effort clearly, but it did not work. His movements became frantic as he struggled with the camera. Finally, he released it onto the bottom, hoping to free both hands and restore buoyancy. The camera remained motionless on the sand. His breathing grew louder, and the diver computer's alarm continued beeping, but there was no escape. At 301 feet, Yuri consumed air 11 times faster than he would have at the surface. His single cylinder was nearly empty. The excessive weight made it impossible to ascend. Even if he had wanted to ditch his weights, nitrogen narcosis at this depth would have clouded his judgment completely. His ability to make rational decisions was gone. The footage jumps ahead for about a minute. The camera was still on the bottom. Yuri's breath can still be heard, and the beeping continues. But Yuri Lipsky had already died face down at the bottom of the sea.
it's the worst part. Like, you don't, like, the worst part for me is that you don't see him, like what he's doing. You can't make out, like, what you're seeing. All you can hear is irrational breathing. and you just hear him struggle. That was the worst for me. That is the worst. That was the worst part for me. It was so bad. You just like the actual video. It's like I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but like you could hear it.
A week later, Tarek Omar descended to recover his body along with the camera. Surprisingly, the camera was intact. The recording preserved 7 minutes of Yuri's life, showing his worst nightmare as he sank to his death. Plura Cave Disaster. On February 6, 2014, 5 Finnish cave divers traveled to a small secluded valley in northern Norway.
Finish.
They were
Finish.
experienced friends
Shout
looking
out.
forward to a
Shout
long
out.
weekend
Shout out
expedition
Finland.
into the Plura cave system. The caves in Nordland are spectacular underground natural phenomena created by the massive formation of limestone in the mountains. The Plura cave is 2.2 miles long, but only half of it has been explored. Cave divers from all over Europe travel to this remote location for the underwater adventure. The group of friends includes Patrick Grunkvist, Jari Huotarinen, Kai Kenkanen, Jari Usimeki, and Vesa Rantanen. They plan to start at a deep pool, travel underground through water-filled tunnels, and emerge in a dry cave called Steinugelflaget, which is about 1.2 miles higher up. The lowest point of the dive section measured about 433 feet below the surface level. The divers plan to go in 2 teams. Patrick and Jari Huotarinen would dive first, and after 2 hours, the second team would follow the same route. The operation began at a pool near the Jordbru farm in Plura.
Oh my
The ice
god.
thick,
Is it?
thick, almost half a meter.
Oh my god, dude. Diving when there's thick ice that you can't break through, I would never do that neither. Plus, not only because the water is so insanely cold, but what if you get stuck under the ice, dude? What if you get stuck under the ice? That is just, that's just a, oh my god. That is like my worst fear, getting stuck under ice.
The divers
That's why I
used
never
a
do it.
chainsaw to cut an opening, but the challenges were
Why? Why would you do that?
extreme. The water temperature was below freezing at -3 degrees Celsius. Each diver carried equipment topside, weighing approximately 132 pounds. They used closed-circuit rebreathers carried on their backs, plus additional spare cylinders.
That's so
Patrick
bad.
and Jari Huotarinen entered the water and began their descent. They had been
I
in this
would
cave
be
before. In fact, Patrick
freezing.
and Kai had been the first divers to find the passage through to Steinugelflaget back in autumn 2013. Roughly 1 hour into
Made
the
another
dive,
thumbnail. Cool,
they
cool,
reached
cool, cool,
a
cool.
maximum depth of about 433 feet below the surface. On their way back up, they had to set aside 2 hours for decompression, stopping at regular intervals. Skipping decompression can cause decompression sickness, which is fatal. During ascent, Patrick realized that something was wrong. Jari had gotten stuck in a narrow passage. He was trapped in the most constricted part of the route between the deep section and Steinugelflaget. It is one of the worst things that can happen to a cave diver. At great depths, stress
Getting
increases
stuck,
rapidly. The
like,
body-
it's not only getting stuck, but now you're stuck on a timer. You're not only stuck like a cave diver, you are stuck underwater, and now you are on a breathing time limit. So it's not like, oh, send people down there. You're stuck there for like, 8 hours. Oh, you're stuck there for 2 days, even when if it's that bad. No, you're stuck down there. And if you don't get out in like 20 minutes, you're gonna die. Oh, that is horrible.
produces more carbon
That's
dioxide
horrible.
under stress. Carbon dioxide is the most insidious danger a diver faces. It is more dangerous than running out of air. It kills. At that moment, Patrick checked his dive computer. It had shown roughly 120 minutes of required decompression time. Suddenly, it jumped to 400 minutes. His breathing was rapid. His heart rate was high. Regardless of decompression requirements, Patrick could not stay in the water any longer. He had already been submerged for 7 hours. His body was shutting down. On his way up, Patrick started thinking about the second team. They were 2 hours behind him. He had already swum past Jari Huotarinen's dead body, blocking the passage, but he had no way to warn the others. Patrick made it to the surface around 9 p.m. Exhausted, disoriented, and freezing, he pulled himself out of the icy water and
That's
reached
just
the dry
sad.
cave alone. He waited
That's
in
so
the
sad.
darkness, hoping to see light beams or bubbles from his friends below. Hours passed, but no one came. Eventually, he walked down the snowy valley by himself, realizing something had gone
Oh my
terribly wrong.
god.
The last diver to surface was Kai. Before then, Jari U had seen his dead friend, Jari Huotarinen, stuck in the narrow passage. Jari U panicked at the sight and exhibited signs of distress diver. He tried switching between his equipment to find stability. Kai made an attempt to calm his friend down. He tried to help, but could not save him, and in a few
Yeah,
moments,
that's just sad.
Jari U died. Then Kai found Vesa struggling with the dead Jari Huotarinen's body that was blocking the passage. He was already breathing heavily. At that point, Kai was faced with an unfortunate decision. He's to either save his friend or save himself. But seeing that Vesa was unlikely to survive and he was already running out of bailout gas, Kai forced himself to turn around.
That is a tough decision. That is such a tough decision. Bro. Oh my
On his
god.
way out, he thought all his friends were dead in the dark depths behind him. Around 1:30 a.m., he finally surfaced through the opening in the ice. He had survived a nightmare dive that lasted 12 hours. Fortunately for Vesa, he made it
12 hours? Dude. 12 hours? That is horrendous. Dude, that is worse than like 12 hours.
But Jari Huotarinen and Jari Usimaki were dead. Eagle's Nest Incident. On Saturday, October 15, 2016, 3 experienced cave divers arrived at Eagle's Nest in west central Florida. The site is a remote sinkhole in Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area,
Okay.
surrounded by pine trees. From the shore, it looks like an ordinary pond. Beneath the surface, it is shaped like a sink with a long, rocky drain. The passages descend into underwater caves.
Am I like a sink? That's not shaped like a sink, yo. I don't know which sink you're looking at, but it is not
reaching
shaped like a
300 feet in
sink.
depth.
That
Chris
is not a
Ryan and
sink.
Patrick Peacock were highly trained technical divers. Both men were certified in full cave diving, Trimix breathing gas, closed-circuit rebreathers, and motorized underwater scooters. They had years of ocean and cave diving experience. Their friend Justin Blakely remained in the shallow section to explore the area while Chris and Patrick went deeper. The day before, on October 14th, Chris and Patrick had prepared the cave. They staged decompression gases and bailout bottles along their planned route in case of equipment failure. For divers using closed-circuit rebreathers,
That's smart. That's
the
smart.
normal procedure is to stay on the rebreather for the entire dive, including decompression. The staged open-circuit gases are backups in case the rebreather fails. Each diver was equipped with a closed-circuit rebreather, 2 side-mounted 95 cubic foot cylinders,
Don't know what any of that
80 cubic
means.
foot safety bottle, and a scooter. They also towed a third scooter as backup. Around 2 p.m., Chris and Patrick entered the water and began their descent. The plan was for them to check in with Justin at 3 p.m. during their decompression stops. That way, he would know they were okay, but they never showed up at the checkpoint. Justin returned to the meeting point every 30 minutes, but there was no sign of his friends. By 6 p.m., he had notified the police. Search teams entered the cave that night. The first team checked the upstream passage based on what the support diver thought was their plan. They searched thoroughly, but found nothing. They returned and searched downstream, including an area called the Lockwood Tunnel. Still nothing. The first team surfaced around
What?
3:30 a.m. The second search team entered at 3:45 a.m. to continue the downstream search. They immediately found both bodies on the exit side of an area called the Pit. The scene was documented for 45 minutes. It was treated as a potential crime scene until law enforcement said otherwise.
Crime
On Monday,
scene.
October 17th, a gear recovery squad searched for equipment left in the cave. They found 2 scooters, Patrick's rebreather, and a 95 cubic foot emergency cylinder at the end of the guideline outside a restriction leading into an area called Revelation Space. The rebreather's loop was closed, and the unit appeared fully operational. All gear was removed and turned over
Weird.
to law enforcement. What actually occurred remains unknown. They did everything right. They had proper training. They had quality equipment. They set up the cave the day before. They had all the correct emergency and safety gases. They had surface support. But as Joe Satelli described the incident, sometimes bad things happen to good people for no apparent reason. Chris
That's
Rittenmeyer
sad.
and Patrick Peacock died
Damn.
at 260 feet.
You're
Since
getting dessert, bro.
1981,
Go get your dessert. Dessert sounds yummy right now. I didn't even eat dinner yet.
At least 10 people
gotta
have
eat
lost
dinner.
their lives at the Eagle's Nest. The Bali diving tragedy. On February 14, 2014, 7 Japanese women set out for a diving trip near Nusa Lembongan, a small island just east of Bali, Indonesia. 2 of them were diving instructors. The other 5 were tourists on holiday. All 7 were experienced divers with at least 50 successful log dives each. They were not
Okay,
beginners.
sick.
Nusa Lembongan
Sick.
is
So
known
they're like gold. So they're like gold ranked. Hmm. So they're like golds, like almost plats. Is that what I'm hearing? Like high gold?
For its stunning underwater beauty. Its colorful coral reefs, diverse marine life, and crystal clear water draw divers from around the world. But the area is also known for something else: strong, unpredictable ocean currents and a sudden change in water density.
Nope. Nope.
Around 1 p.m., the women began their third dive of the day. The
Nope.
weather looked good when they entered the water. Their boat captain, Agustinus Brata Kusuma, followed them on the surface for about 20 minutes. Then suddenly, a storm hit. The water became cloudy and
Damn.
choppy. Large waves formed quickly. Then, the captain moved his boat several distances away to where the divers were expected to surface, but they never appeared. Kusuma searched the area for about an hour before he departed to buy fuel. When he returned, the divers were gone. At 3 p.m., he finally called the police. The 7 women had been swept away by powerful currents during the storm. Huge waves pushed them miles from their starting point. They struggled
Bro.
to remain together in the open ocean, battered by wind, rain, and swells. But they had no boat. No rescue was coming. They were alone. On the first day, Friday, there was no rain. They had no fresh water to drink. The sun burned their exposed skin.
Rain isn't even fresh water. Yo, fun fact. Fun fact. Rain isn't even fresh water. You can't just drink rain and not get sick. Rain will make you very sick if you drink it. Still has to be purified.
Hydration sets in quickly in the tropical heat. Salt water surrounded them, but drinking it would kill them faster. On the second day, heavy rain came. They opened their mouths.
It's better than salt water, but it's definitely not like pure water.
Rainwater, which kept them alive. By the third day, Sunday, they were barely holding on. Their bodies were shutting down from exhaustion, sun exposure, and
That's awful.
dehydration. On Monday morning, February 17th, local fishermen spotted 4 of the women clinging desperately to a coral reef near Nusa Penida Island.
Let's go,
They were
W
about
fishermen.
12 miles from where they had started their dive. A rescue boat was dispatched. The 5th woman, instructor Saori Furukawa, was found floating nearby, and she was picked up by a helicopter. All 5 women were rushed to hospitals. They suffered from severe sunburn, dangerous dehydration, and deep abrasions from the coral, but none were in serious condition.
Nice.
All odds, they had survived 3 days in the open ocean by drinking rainwater and clinging to
Wow.
whatever they could find. On Tuesday,
Open ocean.
February 18th,
That's
the body
terrifying.
of Ritsuko Miyato was found floating near Serangan Beach
Aw.
in South Bali. The 59-year-old woman was almost unrecognizable. She had been in the water for days. Some of her hair was gone. She was still wearing her wetsuit and flippers. The search team continued for the 7th diver, Shoko Takahashi, 29. She was a diving instructor who had moved to Bali and married a local man. She ran the dive operator Yellow Scuba with her husband. What was supposed to be a fun day out with clients and friends became a worst nightmare. Days passed, then weeks, and exactly 1 month later, on March 17, 2014, Shoko's body was found washed ashore on Sempu Island in East Java. The island is about 250 miles from where she
Dang.
disappeared.
That's terrifying. Imagine you're on the beach one day and you see a body wash up on shore. That's got to be like top 5 most terrifying experiences. No, compared to this, it's like nothing. But like, imagine seeing a body wash up on shore. That's scary, bro.
Ocean currents had carried her body across
That's
vast
scary.
stretches of sea for an entire month.
Nutter butter would
The
be
boat captain,
amazing right now. True.
Agustinus Brata Kusuma, was arrested and charged with negligence causing death and injury.
Negligence? No way.
Agustinus Brata Kusuma was arrested and charged with negligence causing death and injury. Prosecutors argued that he
Nah.
abandoned his responsibility.
Nah,
According
bro.
to the rule, a dive boat captain is supposed to stay with divers, especially during bad weather. Instead, he left 7 women alone in the open ocean during a storm so he could buy fuel. 2 women died.
Okay, yeah, never mind. That is negligence. Okay, my bad.
Clinging
Yeah,
to
my bad.
rocks and coral while drinking rainwater for 3 days in the ocean. At a press conference after their rescue, the 5 survivors bowed and apologized for causing trouble and requiring rescue efforts. They thanked everyone who had
No way. Yo, they're the ones apologizing for being swept out into the open ocean and almost getting killed, and some of them did get killed. They're apologizing for causing the trouble. That's insane.
for them. The captain faced criminal charges that could result in years in prison.
Damn.
If you
Damn, yo, is he still in prison right now? Would he be out? Would he be out right now? I don't think I think he might actually, because that happened in 2014.